Welcome to the Spring Umbraco talk. We used to do these about probably over 10 years ago in Cape Town, so this is our first one in a long time, and it's great to be back in physical get-togethers rather than the last 5 years we've been sitting behind screens. So welcome everyone. Bluegrass has been working with Umbraco since 2008, so that's 16 years as a platform which we adopted a long time ago when it was on version 3, I think. We use Umbraco to help design websites, as Nikki said, but build and support digital products and platforms, which is the essence of what we do for our customers. We work with other content management platforms, but Umbraco is certainly one of the most popular ones we work with. We've done a lot of work overseas, predominantly in the UK. We are Umbraco Gold Partners and the only Gold Partner in Africa, in fact. And we work with customers like Advitech Group in South Africa, Rosebank College runs on Umbraco, Astron Energy, we work with them and they run on Umbraco as an example. Soon to be Sun International will be running on Umbraco, moving away from more expensive platforms like Adobe. So it's certainly an enterprise platform, which you'll hear about more from everyone else today. So sit back and relax. If you want to grab another drink or something to eat, please do so. Before we step on to the next, or the first speaker, a little message was sent yesterday from our friend and the CEO of Umbraco, who's recently taken over the helm in the last two
As Matt's person, and I'm the new CEO of Umbraco, and sending you a little bit of a recorded message from the HQ here in Odense. I first of all, I would love to be in Cape Town. Of course, that would have been such a great experience to be there, rather than sitting in a box in Odense talking to you. But life comes differently to all of us, right? Next time, I would say, starting off this small little greeting to you. So I've been here now for almost 2 months, so I'm fresh into it. My first observations are, of course, the whole society and the whole ecosystem of all our partners and MVPs and dedicated people around the globe that is so passionate about Umbraco and our system and the value we bring to our client and our clients' clients. The new marketing suite that we acquired just a couple of months ago, which has brought a lot of attention to the whole personalization, it's been a great news to come in, and been a lot of talks about that. Secondly, what we do on our sustainability has also brought a lot of attention to, and when I talk to partners and press out there, that has been something that is also very important on our agenda. But in general, what I've spent my time is to meet up with people like you to understand what we bring and the value we bring and why we are the best and most flexible platform and solution for the increasing demands out there of integration, the headless discussions, which we are very much suited for and in a very good position to actually address those needs. That has been extremely good for us. So I am, and I'm not a man of big words, but I am very enthusiastic about what the future can bring and the position we have. There is opportunities all over. And I trust and believe there's a big opportunity in South Africa also. And I just called out to you that I hope for, that I could be in South Africa next time with a big community and a lot of people interested in following and also be part of this ecosystem and the whole network of people engaged and skilled in Umbraco. So until then, I wish you all the best. And if there's anything, I am available. My entire team is available for all of you to support and to bring things forward on Umbraco. So take care in South Africa, and I will dress up a little bit. It's getting chilly here in Denmark, so you're in a good place. Ciao.
There we go. So I'm Mark, the Ops Director at Lugros, and I'll be talking a bit about Umbraco, the background, the evolution, and the journey through it, and a bit about its unique features and use cases for Umbraco. So Umbraco, often called the friendly CMS, and this is because of its robust and extremely passionate community of developers around the world. As you can see from here, they congregate into Denmark, into Copenhagen, just outside, every year into an event called Code Garden. So that there is Niels Hartvig. He started Umbraco back in 2004. You can see he looks like something from Foo Fighters band, back in the day. This is really, it's important. This sets the tone for the initial culture of Umbraco and the spirit of the community that's been built. And really it was Niels that started this. He's actually a DJ, so he does look like a musician, and he is a musician on the side. But yeah, so he started this. He's a developer. He got fed up with the state of CMS platforms in general, and he thought he would build a more user-friendly and easy-to-use and flexible content management system. So just to get into it, so Neil started the version 1 back in 2004, built on top of ASP.NET. It's open source, so it really, unlike WordPress on the PHP side, it was .NET side, open source. Didn't really gain much traction until really roughly around about version 3, when in 2006, it started to become more stable. You were able to extend it, you could integrate into lots of different other systems and platforms, and that is really recognized as the start of Umbraco. We got involved, Nick mentioned 2008, which is just before then. So really 2008, 2009 is when Umbraco adopted more of a modern ASP.NET MPC approach, and they then started jumping more into the enterprise space, allowing and attracting more enterprise clients and applications to come onto the platform. And we started in 2009, and we used it a lot up until 2012, when there was much excitement around the new version 5 that was going to come out. And, we learned some school fees on that project, and I think it's important lessons to learn. We jumped on board quite early. Version 5 had just been released, and we had a major client. We were 80%, 90% done with the project. And then, unfortunately, it was announced that Code Garden version 5 was dead. It had fundamental problems in its core. I'm not going to go into it too much, but they had to kill it. And as you can imagine, that caused, a bit of instability in the community. But, everyone, bandied together. And very shortly after that, version 6 came out with a much, fixing the performance problems that were in version 5. But a lot of the new UI stuff that was anticipated in version 5, was delayed. So important lessons to learn is maybe don't always jump in early onto tech. Let's see, let it evolve, teething problems and that sort of thing before you make decisions to adopt. Taking a look at what, the early days of Umbraco actually looked like. This is version 3, actually from the beginning all the way up till version 6. You can see that if anyone's familiar with Umbraco, the traditional tree structure on the left here, with the sections, and nothing has changed, I'll show you now, and you can edit on the side. So if anyone, just to understand what a content management system is obviously it enables non-developers, marketing type people to actually run a website. So you can change, add pages and all of that sort of thing, push publish, and it actually appears on the website. Moving on in the evolution journey, so version 7, and this is really, I would call the star of the show. It was around from 2013 all the way through to 2019, hundreds of applications. We've done hundreds of applications on version 7 and prior, and there's still applications running on version 7. Version 7, unfortunately, is end of life, and when version 8 came out in 2019, it adopted the .NET framework. So it actually moved on. So there was no clear migration path. You couldn't move easily from version 7 to version 8. You had to rewrite a lot of the back end. Front end could stay the same, but it was a very different now evolution in Umbraco's journey. And important to actually just take note there that a lot of the reason for this in 2019 was there was a shift in Umbraco itself. So Niels actually went more into the background of the business, and new sort of leadership came in. So, for example, Matt, and he's actually new, but other people, within the business came into Umbraco, and it grew up, so to speak. So it still retained its culture, but I think the leadership and the vision and the roadmap of Umbraco changed. So it aligned itself very closely with Microsoft and the Microsoft cadence of .NET releases, and the roadmap was very clear for companies like us to then see, okay, what is coming out in future versions. They never had that before. So you didn't actually know when the next release would come out or what was in the next release. So that was very important, I think, a stage in the journey. Version 9 came out 2021. That was with .NET Core. More performance and security enhancements were introduced. Version 10 in 2022, .NET 6, more performance and package support and deployment support, and an introduction around that time with Umbraco Cloud, which I'll talk about in a bit. And then obviously recently we're now version 13, which is the latest, most stable version of Umbraco. So this is the new version. Really, it's slightly after version 7. The UI, so as you can see, it's a much improved UI with the introduction of AngularJS. It allows immense customization of the CMS itself, and that allowed for heavy integrations and possibilities within the CMS itself. So here you can see the normal tree structure, everything else moved to the top, and then you've got this right-hand side here. So what this also introduced was the concept of infinite editing, they called it. So you're always context aware of the page that you're on. You never really leave it, and you've got these building blocks or layers above you as you edit and manage content. So you can see here you're editing content, and you still got the page behind, that you're editing on top of. There was better package support, so you can see a lot of the packages that come with Umbraco that you can integrate into Umbraco that extend Umbraco are easily visible in the CMS here. Umbraco's media library is, I would say, better than any other CMS platform out there. There's not, like WordPress runs, I think it's something like 65 or 70% of the world's websites, but their media section, you can't touch this. So here on Umbraco, you can actually create folder structures. You can group your assets, your files, anything into any way you like, which other CMS platforms, you can't do that. You have to install plugins or, it becomes quite tedious. So it's very flexible from that perspective. Image cropping, focal points are all just built into the CMS. It's also now got a content API, which is nice for developers and enables Umbraco to run in a headless sort of way. And this is all now within the CMS. They've got a powerful rollback functionality. So if you make a mistake or you want to see who edited what last, you've got an audit trail, so you can see what's going on, and you can even roll back to previous versions. So version 14, that's the next big one that's coming out, and they've focused on a new management API, really extending the possibilities of Umbraco and what it can integrate into, and also allowing it to run completely headless with whatever front end or a mobile app or anything else you may want to. So why choose Umbraco, the friendly CMS? So flexibility, I think we've spoken about that a bit. It's extremely flexible. You can do anything with it, and we have done lots of different things with it. From just a basic content website to we've built almost like DAM asset management type moderation interfaces into the CMS. So everything is completely tailored to the project that you are doing, and there's nothing predefined. So there's nothing out the box. You do it all yourself, which is nice. And gives a lot of power into the hands of the developers. Security. So this is a big thing that sets Umbraco apart. So being closely aligned and built on top of Microsoft.NET, it is way more secure, I would say, because it's .NET, it's Microsoft. So enterprise and corporates love it. So when you're dealing with IT departments or IT directors where security is top of mind, you're going to be hard pushed to try and put a business case forward for another CMS over Umbraco for these reasons. Umbraco Cloud, it's got automated security updates, automated CMS updates all built into it. Umbraco undergoes third-party penetration and vulnerability testing. I think it's annual and it's completely audited and independent. So the application itself is vetted and secure. And when security issues are found, they release patches. And then they announce it through the community channels, and you can update your application. One nice thing, which also I think sets Umbraco apart, is built into the CMS is a health check. So at a click of a button, you can actually see, is my application secure against the OWASP top 10 security standards? And it will call out where you need to improve, things you need to fix, and that's just straight out the box built into the CMS. I don't actually know of many other CMS platforms that offer that. Community. This is a massive positive for Umbraco and a benefit in choosing it. So as a developer, often you're going to get stuck potentially, and you're going to need support. So they've got community events like Code Garden where people attend and you get to network with like-minded developers and peers, and you can see how they're using Umbraco and you can learn things. So they've pushed this heavily, and it's, I've been a few times to Code Garden, Simon's been, Matt's been, and you learn immensely from everybody that comes there and what they're doing with Umbraco. The GitHub, if you go to their GitHub, you can see how active it is. It's, even this was just a screenshot from yesterday, and that's like from a couple of, look at that, how often their commits going. So this is, core contributors that are actually contributing back to the code base through pull requests, and it's being accepted and it's improving the product. So, this is a major benefit because it's like having a development team of over 1,000 people in addition to your core development team. So Umbraco actually acknowledges and they, those core developers, and they run an annual MVP program. So you can nominate a colleague if you feel that you or a colleague, has demonstrated, by giving back to the community or organizing events or contributing back to the code base, you can be nominated as an MVP. And winners of the MVP award actually get, I don't know if they get flown out for free by Umbraco, but they definitely, get tickets to the Umbraco Code Garden event, and they are recognized there in front of hundreds and hundreds of other peers and developers that attend. Umbraco's documentation, I would say, is excellent. It's, if you get stuck as a developer, where do you go? You're going Stack Overflow, you're going to ChatGPT these days. Can you trust the GPT? Who knows? But, Umbraco's documentation is extremely thorough. They give code examples. It's very simple and easy to navigate. And if you can't find it here, the community you can reach out to, and on the forums, you're going to get an answer extremely quickly. So it's a very, very active community, and it's a long-standing community, and that is one of the main, I think, benefits in choosing Umbraco. Umbraco Cloud. So this is something where Umbraco is pushing more into sort of the DXP offering. So and offering a cloud solution where you don't have to manage Umbraco, all the environments that it runs on yourself. Umbraco Cloud does that all for you. So when you log into Umbraco Cloud itself, you can actually see all your environments laid out there, and you can, at the click of a button, do things like deploy up from environments. You can sync environments back to each other. You can push content both ways, and just at the click of a button. So, that's really powerful, and that wasn't possible previously without a bit more effort and setup on your own side. So here you can see, Umbraco Cloud runs on Microsoft Azure. Obviously, they're very closely aligned with Azure. and the Azure app service that sits underneath Umbraco Cloud. Umbraco Cloud has hooked into that. So normally within Azure, you would need to go digging for finding, okay, what went on here? What's the performance like here? What's the CPU usage, for example, of my application? It's all just there in an interface and at a click of a button, which makes it extremely powerful. You can see commit changes by your own team, even when Umbraco are pushing their own updates through. You can see what they are pushing as well. So here they're updating the core of the product. You can access log files. So this is extremely valuable stuff, and it just speeds you up as a developer. So normally this would take time, right, to find this stuff, or you're reaching out to, your DevOps team to say, can you give me the log files if you don't have access as a developer? So with Umbraco Cloud, you can have different roles and permissions-based access, and you can have access just to the logs, for example, or different parts of the application. Backups. So here you can see you can run your own backup schedules, and you can easily roll back to a previous backup if you needed to. So the redundancy and the rollback ease is extremely easy with Umbraco Cloud. So Umbraco Cloud, when you set up a project, there's 3 offerings. So a normal project, Umbraco Cloud. You've got the headless API set up, so that's Umbraco Hardcore. They've got this option here, which is the Umbraco Baseline. Now, this is very interesting. It's an interesting concept. So the way that the concept works as a baseline project is you have this underlying baseline, and in that baseline, you would build in common functionality and feature sets that you would potentially push through to child project. Now, what that does is it makes you more consistent in your development approach, but it's not for every situation. So we learned, that it's really a good use case if you are controlling all of the development yourself as a development team, because then the development style is going to be consistent and you can actually control all of that. But where there might be a third-party development team, in different groups within a business, and you're trying to run everything from a baseline, it gets a bit trickier because you could get conflicts as you try and push that down into child projects that are potentially built in a different way to the way that the baseline's built. So we took that concept at Bluegrass, and we've got the same baseline project concept, but we run it separately, and we maintain that baseline in our own repos, and we use that as a starting point for all of our projects. It speeds us up. It gives us a consistent quality to all of our CMS platforms. And we actually built this little website that gives, it's kind of like an online spec website, which shows how we build Umbraco in a best practice way. So things like settings you would have in your baseline, SEO, how you manage SEO data and the ability to edit SEO data, how you do things like open graph data, part of SEO, managing scripts for analytics and that type of thing. And maybe you want to give the marketing team the ability to switch colors, within a defined brand guideline color palette. So you can say, okay, well, the background color or primary buttons should now be blue, not green, but it's still within the color palette. And that can all be just custom configured and set up within a baseline project, and then it's consistent between all projects. So just moving on a bit, I'm just conscious of time. I'm squeezing a lot in here. So another reason, when considering Umbraco, if you're trying to put together a business case for your management team, if you're pushing 2 different CMS platforms, you can also use the G2 review platform, where they've got a wonderful comparison between Umbraco and all the other major content management systems. And Umbraco is coming out tops at the moment. They're getting incredible customer reviews. They're being called like a leader in the enterprise space at the moment. Best usability, Summit 2024 there. And you can actually see the competitors that they're ranking against. Optimizely, of which we also partners, and Sitecore, Kentico, Sitefinity, and Contentful. So Umbraco, according to the reviews that are coming through, that it's better. It's in the majority of the categories here. It really is the friendly CMS. So here you can see the return on investment, the average go live time. It's up there. It's fast. It's scalable. It's winning on so many different fronts as a CMS. So you're in good company. These are some of the brands that they actually use Umbraco and powers Umbraco applications. You can see a few of the South African well-known ones, and we've been involved in all of those. So you're in good hands. Thank you.
Mark, I actually wanted to ask you 2 questions for people who maybe are not tech savvy. What is a headless site?
So headless basically means you're running the front end decoupled from the back end. So you've got an API layer where the CMS, Umbraco as an example, you're controlling all of the data and the setup within the CMS, and then you're pushing that through an API to the front end. And the front end can be anything. It could be a mobile app, it could be Next.js or Vue.js or React, whatever front end. And a lot of the logic will sit in the front end, but then it's talking to an API. So it's really just a fancy way of saying you're decoupling the head, which is the front end, from the rest of the application or the architecture.
Then also, what is a DXP?
DXP. So DXP stands for Digital Experience Platform. So Gartner actually took away the web content management category a couple of years ago, of which Umbraco was a leader in, because everything's moving towards DXP these days. So DXP really is it's a multi-integrated application, I guess, or suite of features and functionality, allowing you to turn on or to do everything within one suite. So for example, a good example of a DXP would be Optimizely, and you can do things like content management, so it's part of the DXP suite. You can also enable additional products within the DXP suite, like analytics or campaigns or various different things. But yeah.
All right. Hi guys, I'm Matt. I'm the head of product at Bluegrass, and I'm going to talk to you about Umbraco Engage. I think something we've forgot to mention so far, so maybe I'll start off with a question, is for just a normal Umbraco site, if you wanted to start this up for your business now, does anyone know how much Umbraco costs? Not a cloud version, just a normal on-premise Umbraco self-hosted website. It's free. Are we throwing anything? Okay. Okay. That is correct. So Umbraco is free. There are certain products, like Simon mentioned, Umbraco Commerce, that has a license fee, but the base product offering is free. What I'm talking to you about now, Umbraco Engage, much like the kind of life cycle that vendor to Umbraco Commerce went through, this started out as a separate product called Marketing Suite, which was a plugin for Umbraco. Very, very popular, sort of huge number of features, very big acquisition in terms of how many people are utilizing it. Umbraco saw the value in it, and they recently acquired the company. And what they're busy going through right now is just a rebranding exercise. So it's going to be known as Umbraco Engage, and it'll be offered as a sort of separate add-on product, much like Umbraco Commerce, that you can then install and add to your particular implementation. This one's less technical and more for the marketers. So basically what Umbraco Engage will offer you is server-side analytics, A/B testing, personalization, and all of those cool kind of like more marketing related side of things that you can want to do with your website for your marketing teams to play around with. So it's not been announced yet what the kind of finalized pricing will be, but they've said that this is the current Marketing Suite pricing, and this will persist until the end of the year, and then they'll announce how and what kind of pricing and tiering and things they're going to work with going forwards. But I guess for the power it gives you, it's quite a reasonable offering, and most people will generally, unless you're running a massive website with tons of requests, fall into kind of the basic or extended region based on the number of server calls and page views you get. Just touching on some of the features, so the first feature I mentioned that it offers is analytics. So why would you want to, I guess, use Umbraco's analytics when you've got Google Analytics already set up? 2 reasons. One, you don't have to then log into another platform like Google Analytics. This is already built into the interface that you're working on, and you can pull up one of your pages and see the analytics and even a heat map for that specific page right there in the view. You can then see, how far people are scrolling down your particular page with that heat map, and then decide whether you want to, move certain content higher up on the page because only 20% of the people are reaching that sort of scroll depth. And the other benefit is that it's server-side analytics. So something that's been announced quite a lot recently but still hasn't actually been enacted yet is that the browsers are going to start blocking third-party cookies, and more people are starting to be, I guess, focused on their personal information and starting to block tracking of websites and things. So while you still need to be conscious of that and have the right T's and C's and things like that in place, it is server-side tracking, so the users can't really be blocking that kind of stuff. So you're going to get a lot more, I guess, accurate stats than you might from a Google Analytics where the people have third-party cookie blockers, ad blockers, and all the likes of that kind of stuff. So out the box, you'll get some kind of basic analytics of just page views, what location people are coming from, what device, browsers, that kind of stuff. And then there's a small little bit of JavaScript you can add to extend that to track things like your form tracking, your interaction with videos, downloads, all that kind of stuff. And again, because it's Umbraco, it's quite well integrated into things like Umbraco forms, so you can get form abandonment down to even the individual field level. So if your form, you're asking someone to enter their ID, you can then tell most people are dropping off because they now don't want to enter their ID into your form and things like that. So that's one of the kind of core features that it offers. And just a few screenshots that you can see of the interface here. So here's just a little view of the different page views. And you can see along the top, you've got sort of your visitors, your browser, goals and your referrals, all the kind of normal stuff you'll expect from analytics. Also being server-side based, they can quite easily differentiate between real users and bots, and they quite nicely separate out all the bot traffic that's hitting your site. So you can then tell what is actual real traffic and what is just, robots. Then we've got our device type, so just, I guess, some of your normal kind of stats there. And then here's just a view of some of the Umbraco form tracking. So you'll have your normal kind of form views, starts, submissions, abandonments, and things like that. And then finally, this is your video engagement. So how many people are playing your video, the stop starts, what percentage of the video have they watched, that kind of stuff. Then one of the next features is their 360-degree profiling. So when someone starts to interact with your site, you will have them as an unidentified visitor because you don't know who they are, but they will still be kind of fully tracked, and you'll see a profile for them inside of the interface. You'll be able to tell what kind of personas they fall into, which I'll touch on in a bit. You'll be able to see what kind of pages they're viewing, how they're interacting with your site. And then as soon as they start to engage with some kind of interface on your site that you can gather information, so a login form, a contact form, somewhere you're capturing some information about them, or if you've integrated with one of your sort of third-party or external platforms, maybe your CRM platform where you've got a identifier that you can use to tie back to the user, then you can start to build a bit more of a personal profile of them. So then you can pull in things like get their actual name and a profile photo if they've got a profile photo against their profile in the back end and things like that. And that's quite useful for then understanding who your customers are and being able to drill down into them. Also kind of freaky and scary, but this is the world of marketing right now that you don't see. And this is why every time we have a talk like now and you go home, you'll start to see Umbraco ads pop up on your phone. So this is now a few more screenshots. This is the overall kind of view of the total number of profiles, identified, unknown. And then you'll see at the bottom here, this is just a bunch of the different views, so all the different hits that are coming through in the sessions. And then you can drill into each one of these individual sessions and then see a bit more information about them. So, what are they doing? They ended their visit, they reached the scroll depth of a page, so all the kind of analytics and stats and things like that about that individual user. So it gets really, really deep and really in depth that you can really deep dive and understand your users and how they're engaging with your site. And once you then start to, I guess, deep dive and engage and understand, you then want to move on to personalization. So this would now be, now that I understand my customers a bit better, how do I better want to tailor my website to them? So from a personalization perspective, you get quite powerful out-the-box personalization options. We get what's called either explicit or implicit types of personalization. So explicit would just be a very true or false Boolean type. This person is on a Firefox browser, this person is on a Chrome browser. You want to target people on mobile, then you target just device type equals mobile, and you can give them specific experiences. Or you can do more of an implicit personalization, and that's where you can start to tag your content with certain kind of personas or groupings or segments. So say I've got a marketing site, and on that marketing site I've got a blog, and my blog maybe ranges from categories of, eating out and food and things in Cape Town, and maybe I do a bit of skateboarding and paddle on the side and good hikes and things like that. I can then say that each one of my blog posts about a restaurant or some food I've recently eaten scores 10 points. And then I can say that once someone has got above 50 points, they would fall into my foodie persona. And that's more now how I can tailor implicit personas based on someone's engagement on my site, because I can say that based on the content they're consuming on my site, they're probably this kind of a person, and then if they're a foodie, the next time they come to my home screen, I can change my banner on my site to be food related, so I can then personalize my content specifically to those kind of users, which is really cool and really powerful. You've also got campaign tracking, so this is kind of an extension of the analytics side of things, and again, the benefits of this is it's right inside of Umbraco itself rather than going to your third-party Google Analytics or something similar, and it's less likely that all your campaign tracking is going to be blocked, but you can then see how all your campaigns are performing and can be tied specifically to your goals and your testing that you're now doing. Are your particular tests working? If you've got a Halloween campaign or a Black Friday campaign, how is that converting? And if you're running a test against two different versions of a checkout page, which one's performing better and how's your campaign performing? And then finally onto the A/B testing. So essentially what A/B testing is you can test two different variations of something on your site. Now that can be as granular as the color or the label of the checkout button on your checkout page, to the entirety of the checkout page itself, to something that's called a document type. And a document type in Umbraco is almost like a template or a component, something that's similar across a variety of pages. So something like a blog page, so my blog details page, the article details page would be a document type. I can then run a test across all of my different blog pages at the same time by doing a document type level test. So essentially how A/B testing works is you'll have a baseline, so your current website would be the current kind of core experience that you're testing against, and then you would create one or multiple variants that you're wanting to test against. And you'd give each one of those variants a name. You'd set up a specific goal, so if it's a checkout page, maybe you're changing the product imagery, maybe you're changing the price or the wording of how you describe the product, then your goal would be a conversion, so someone actually reaching the next step of the checkout or actually making a purchase. That's what we'd be testing against. Now, for the most part, if you aren't a techie, you're going to be limited to being able to just test what's in the content tree of Umbraco itself. So anything where you can control in the sort of CMS, like we've seen the images we showed earlier, like titles, descriptions, images, price, things like that, you can edit those all quite easily. But if you want to change the actual structure of the page, so you want to move, maybe you've got your kind of like product details on the left and your checkout information on the right, and you wanted to switch those, or you wanted to change the color of your button from white to red, then you're going to need a dev to help you out, or you're going to need your own dev skills or your friendly neighborhood ChatGPT, because you're going to need to then inject some JavaScript or CSS to actually change the actual page itself, because now we're no longer dealing in the content world, we're dealing a bit more with the overall look and feel of the page. But it's all fully possible, and you can do that inside the tests. So this all sounds really cool and really good and really powerful. So what are the potential catches and downsides of this? Rhymes with catch, it's cache. How A/B testing essentially works is when you hit the site, we either serve you variant A or variant B, or we check to see whether you fall into one of those personas that I talked about. So we'll check if you're on a Firefox browser or are you a foodie or what are you, and then we'll serve you that specific experience. But if we have caching implemented, what happens is if I'm the foodie and I come in and I hit the site, I'll be served the foodie experience, but then the next person will come in, that content's cached, they won't get evaluated for who and what they are, and they'll be served exactly the same cached foodie experience. So at the surface level, caching kind of breaks your ability to do A/B testing. I mean, there are smart and technical ways around this, but it's just one of the kind of limits that you'll run into with A/B testing. And it's something to be aware of. And some of the current sort of final thoughts and considerations about wanting to implement A/B testing, in your company and to perform it. Some of the major, I guess, downsides or downfalls that people don't consider when it comes to A/B testing is, if you think about some of the test examples I've given you, you need lots of content to perform these kinds of tests. Because if I'm testing a checkout page or a blog page with 3 different sets of information in it, that's 3 times the amount of content I need to create. If I'm switching out 3 different images, my marketing team or my design team needs to design me 3 different images for this product. So it's a lot more, I guess, work up front from the content perspective. And then one of the traps that people often fall into is they test with emotion. They have a meeting and the CEO will be like, I really like blue. Let's go with the blue button because I think blue is really going to hit the mark. The kids these days, they're loving the blue. And it's just not, there's no data, there's no analytics, there's nothing behind that's pushing or driving that decision. So you really need to take emotion out of it and let your data help drive your decisions. So that's where you start off with the analytics. You start off with looking at the heat map. Something's far down the page and you test, okay, what if we move this higher up on the page? Will that change my conversion? So you really need to come into the testing and A/B testing with a plan up front. Test something small, don't test 40, 100 things at the same time, because then you won't actually know what has made a difference, what is converting, because you can't pinpoint it on one specific thing because you've just changed everything. So start with small tests, start with a clear goal in mind, use data to drive it, and then it's incremental, right? So you do that one test, you get some positive feedback, you move on to the next one, you move on to the next one, and you iterate kind of like this, and you just keep going. And you just need to bear in mind that it's now deep stats and things like that, but for your test to have statistical significance and for you to be able to say, version A is a clear winner over version B, you can't be a little mom and pop blog with 5 viewers because it's just not going to have enough viewership for it to be able to statistically say whether this version is actually beating this version or not, or whether you just had 3 grannies come and check out your site and they just really like knitting, so they chose the knitting option. You need a large sample size to actually make proper inferred decisions around, is this a winner or isn't this a winner? But yeah, that's just a quick high level over what Umbraco Engage is, and hopefully something you'll look at playing with around and implementing to your site in the future. Any questions, not just for me, but on everything? Yes.
So when you visit the site, how do you know that it's turned on? So I can know to avoid it.
Okay, so if you're an Umbraco editor yourself and you're logged in, it's quite handy because you have a little widget that shows you and then you can switch your experiences and you can test. But if you're a user, there's no real way to tell, I guess, if someone's doing A/B testing on you. You can refresh the page and see if you get a different experience. But you won't quite know how they've coded their tests, how they've coded their personas, what they're testing on. There's no real, I guess, way for you to be able to tell.
If you're a developer, you can check your cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with the persona thing, you can use that to serve different content to people based on the personas that you've created, and you don't need a user profile for that.
Correct. So it's purely, so everyone has a profile. It will just be an anonymized profile. So it will know based on you visiting the site, it will set a cookie against you, or it will have some information against you, and then each time you come back, it will be tracking you as the same kind of person, and then it will know what content you're engaging with, and then your personas, depending on how many you've built up, will start scoring up, and then you'll fall into a specific bracket based on that.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Just